The challenge for all of us is we do not want to fall into a binary of US-China. We do not want to say that we do not want to choose between US and China, but we also do not want to have just these two options. But in order not to have just these two options, we will have to create options. And that required all of us to rethink and reconsider our geography and to reimagine the rise of the rest. Now, when I say that we have to reimagine the post-war trade structure, for the longest of time since the end of the Second World War, Asian societies grew rich by exporting to the United States. And by assuming that the United States is the final destination of export, and very often the market of the first resort. Up until today, quite a bit of our trade with China is actually E&E and a subset segment of E&E, which is semiconductor, and actually part of the process of semiconductor. And that part of the process, without naming names, eventually will end up as a phone produced in China and for the US market. So even though the trade with China is huge, but part of that trade, a significant part of that trade, is actually intermediary processes that is supposed to go into a phone, and the phone is supposed to be sold in the United States, to be exported from China. So so we have to rethink all this. But to rethink all this is to create domestic market, to create ASEAN market, and to see that we will have to have a new logic. Over the last how many years since the end of the Second World War, from Japan to the Four Dragons, to the Four Tiger Cubs, and to China, everyone export to the US. And in this export-led industrialization strategy, it presupposes all these countries suppressing wages and creating industrial capacity for export and competing to lower prices, competing to make it cheap for export. We may have to rethink the strategy. We may have to think about how to create domestic market, how to create middle class in Malaysia, how to create middle class in ASEAN. And as Frederick started the presentation, he said how to see that ASEAN and some of the other developing countries, not just as a production site, but also as a market in its own right. I think that is a mindset shift that we will have to go through. It is going to be painful because it just goes against what we learn, what we know over the last 30, 40 years, or even 50 years. The third point is about reappraising Malaysia's position. We will have to rethink some of our inherent understanding of ourselves. Very often, Malaysians have grown very cynical about ourselves, and we have sometimes adopted a lot of cliche without thinking through. For instance, I want to challenge a bit of your brain. We're so used to saying that Malaysia is a trading nation. But you think about this, Malaysia actually do have technology, and once upon a time, in the 90s, Malaysian technology was just below US, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, EU, and not many other people. Malaysian technology was actually in the middle before China became a technology nation. Chinese semiconductor sector managers or bosses in their 50s or 60s, if they come to this part of the world, very often you hear from them and say, oh, when we were young, we were all buying semiconductor products from Malaysia. We're all buying E&E products from Malaysia. And interestingly, they'll tell you that most of them work under Malaysian managers. Because for a period of time, Malaysians were the preferred managers managing firms and factories in China, especially in the semiconductor industry. So we should rethink Malaysia as a technology hub, and we may not be able to aspire to climb the technology ladder to supersede the technology of China, US, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, or Germany, but we should be firmly in the position of having Malaysian technology for the middle tech and occupying the indispensable middle as far as technology is concerned. We also should see Malaysia as a hub. Singapore is a great hub for Western capital, Western money. Malaysia should aspire to be a hub for the rest of the world, and assuming that the rise of the rest, and Malaysia can be a great hub for the rest. So, and as many of you are not originally from Malaysia, you realize that Malaysia is an interesting place. The Arabs will be happily spending 3 years here with their families because of the affinity as far as food is concerned, people, friendliness to Muslim. And you talk to Chinese national, they'll be happily spending their time here because of also friendliness of society and also convenience as well as food and various practices. And the new Japanese ambassador told me that outside Tokyo, maybe outside Singapore and Hong Kong, maybe outside Taiwan, not many other places have that many omakase restaurants. So we should imagine ourselves as the new hub for a new world order, a new hub for the rest, and perhaps also to see ourselves not just as a Vietnam plus. Very often we are told that we're competing with Vietnam. We should see ourselves as a Singapore at a discount. Finally, I think we need, when I mention Singapore at a discount, we need to see that we have to differentiate ourselves further from Vietnam, from Indonesia, from the neighboring countries, so that we occupy an interesting position and we do not have to compete with the rest. We can actually help the rest and work in a very collegial manner with other countries, including Vietnam, especially in this difficult moment of the next 100 or 200 days. I want to throw it to you, but I think you're absolutely right. Before Malaysia, Trump will first look at Vietnam. But the challenge for Malaysian authorities and also for ASEAN authorities, do you stand together with Vietnam? Do you coordinate actions with Vietnam? Or you say, okay, let's send Vietnam to the firing squad, and then we'll stay back and so that it doesn't hurt us. We may have to think through all these questions, and you can help us to think through.